When your spirit begins to transform, it rarely announces itself with trumpets or glory. More often it arrives quietly, as a disturbance beneath the surface, a ripple in your inner stillness. At first it feels like unease. You may sense that something within you is stirring, shifting, becoming unfamiliar. The world appears the same, yet something in your perception has changed. It is in this fertile discomfort that the shadow begins to emerge. The shadow is not evil, nor is it the enemy. It is the sum of all the things you have refused to accept about yourself, fears unspoken, desires denied, emotions you've judged as improper or inconvenient. It consists of forgotten potentials and unlived lives that you unconsciously cast aside in order to survive, to be accepted, to belong. But now, in this time of transformation, those fragments rise from the depths of the psyche, demanding to be acknowledged. You may first recognize the shadow through projection. You become inexplicably irritated by someone else's behavior. Their arrogance, laziness, or impulsivity disturbs you deeply, more than reason would justify. But the truth is unsettling. What you reject in them is something unclaimed within you. This confrontation is not an accident. It is your spirit inviting you to recover the parts of yourself you buried. Transformation begins here, not with comfort, but with confrontation. You start to witness sides of yourself you once swore you didn't possess. Anger emerges, not the righteous kind, but the buried fury from long ago that you never allowed yourself to feel. Jealousy flares up, not because you are petty, but because some part of you has been starving for attention and affirmation. You feel sadness, sharp and sudden, flowing from a well you didn't know existed. This is the soul's alchemy. The hidden material of your being is being called into light. In this phase it is common to feel fragmented or disoriented. You may question who you are or wonder if you are regressing. But regression is often the soul's way of revisiting what was missed or mishandled. You are not falling back. You are descending for the sake of integration. You must touch what you've avoided in order to heal it. Dreams often become more vivid during this time. Figures from your past may reappear. Animals, archetypes, or symbols may populate your inner world. These are not random flickers of the imagination. They are messengers from the unconscious seeking to communicate truths that logic cannot articulate. The shadow speaks in metaphor, not instruction. And though its language may feel foreign, your deeper self understands it well. You may resist this process. That is natural. The ego fears disintegration, and the shadow's presence threatens the polished self-image you have spent years constructing. But if you resist too long, the shadow doesn't disappear, it distorts. It shows up in addiction, compulsive behavior, chronic anxiety, or the inability to feel alive. To avoid the shadow is to cut yourself off from your own vitality. And yet within the shadow lies gold, the qualities you denied. Your courage, sensuality, assertiveness, imagination are not inherently negative. They were simply unfit for the mask you had to wear. But now the mask is cracking and your spirit is asking, who are you beneath it? This question is not answered by thinking, but by being. When you make space for the shadow, when you allow yourself to sit with discomfort, to observe your reactions, to stop blaming others and begin exploring the roots within yourself, you step into the fire of transformation. This is the sacred labor of individuation, the process by which your spirit becomes whole. You will not integrate the shadow all at once. It is a lifetime's dialogue, but its emergence confirms that change is already underway. You are becoming more honest, more awake, more yourself, and this confrontation, uncomfortable, humbling, necessary, is the clearest sign that your spirit is transforming. As the process of transformation unfolds, the world begins to shift in subtle but profound ways. It may not be immediately apparent, but there is an increasing sense that things around you are no longer as they once were. You might find yourself noticing patterns that were once invisible to you. The synchronicities, the recurring symbols, the dreams that wake you in the middle of the night, they are no longer dismissed as coincidences. They are the language of your unconscious, speaking to you in a way that you are now beginning to understand. The symbols, which once seemed like mere abstractions or fleeting thoughts, now begin to take on new significance. A butterfly that lands on your windowsill might no longer just be a creature of nature. It could be the very symbol of metamorphosis, a signal that you are undergoing your own profound change. A recurring number, whether on a clock or in your daily encounters, could become a reminder that time itself is aligning with your internal journey, urging you to recognize the deeper flow of life. Your surroundings, the faces of strangers, the colors that catch your eye, they all carry meaning beyond their immediate presence. In fact, it is as though the veil between your conscious mind and the unconscious is thinning, allowing you glimpses of a much broader, interconnected reality. The world becomes charged with meaning, and your perception is no longer limited to the surface of things. You begin to see the metaphors in the everyday. The cracked sidewalk outside your house may now seem like a reflection of the emotional cracks that have opened in your own life. A storm that brews on the horizon might mirror the turbulence within you as you navigate the uncertainty of transformation. Your waking life starts to feel as though it is in conversation with the deeper currents of your being, and this conversation is being conducted in symbols. At the heart of this shift lies the recognition that the unconscious does not operate in the rational, linear way of the ego. The unconscious speaks in images, metaphors, and feelings, and it does so through symbols that transcend ordinary understanding. This is not a language of facts, but a language of essence. The world around you becomes a stage for the symbols of your soul's journey, inviting you to step into the mystery and engage with life at a deeper level. Dreams, which once may have been nothing more than a jumble of disconnected thoughts, now reveal themselves to be a crucial aspect of this communication. They are not merely random firings of the brain, but are instead the psyche's way of revealing truths that are beyond the reach of the waking mind. You might dream of traveling to distant places, only to wake up feeling as though you have actually journeyed somewhere inside yourself. These dreams do not merely reflect your daily life. They are a window into the soul's deeper desires, fears, and wisdom. The more you listen to your dreams, the more you begin to recognize the patterns that they carry, and the more you understand how your unconscious mind is guiding you through this transformative period. Synchronicities, too, begin to emerge with startling frequency. You may find that you think of an old friend you haven't spoken to in years, only to receive a message from them shortly thereafter. Or you might find yourself contemplating a particular idea or theme, and then, within hours, encounter a book, a song, or a conversation that seems to offer the very answers you were seeking. These moments may feel like pure coincidence, but they are, in fact, the threads of meaning that connect your individual consciousness to a greater web of existence. The more open you are to these occurrences, the more you begin to trust the process of your transformation. The world is no longer a random collection of events. It is a purposeful flow, guiding you toward greater understanding and wholeness. As your spirit undergoes transformation, the symbols in your life become more pronounced and their meanings more urgent. The challenge is to learn to read them, to attune yourself to their subtle presence. This is not always an easy task. The mind, accustomed to linear thinking and rational analysis, may struggle to comprehend the symbolic nature of the messages you are receiving. But over time, as you allow yourself to accept the mystery of life, you will find that the symbols speak more clearly, and you begin to trust the wisdom they offer. The world becomes a living text, filled with lessons and insights if you are willing to pay attention. Transformation, then, is not just a private internal experience. It is one that connects you to the larger forces of the universe. The symbols and synchronicities that emerge are not isolated or random events. They are part of the grand tapestry of existence that is woven with meaning and purpose. By recognizing this, you step into a deeper relationship with life, one where the ordinary is infused with the extraordinary, and where every moment becomes an invitation to understand more about who you are and why you are here. As you continue to transform, the symbols will guide you, and you will come to see that the very fabric of your reality is alive with meaning. As the process of transformation progresses, an intriguing shift occurs within your sense of self. The roles that once defined you, whether as a friend, parent, colleague, or partner, begin to feel less solid, less authentic. The persona you've carefully constructed over the years, the image you've projected to the world, begins to crack and lose its grip on you. It is as if the mask you've worn for so long no longer fits, and you can no longer play the part you once so easily performed. This disintegration of the persona is often a disorienting experience, but it is an essential part of the spiritual transformation taking place. The persona, in psychological terms, is the face we present to the world, the version of ourselves that we believe will ensure acceptance and approval from others. It is the mask we wear in different contexts, tailored to fit the expectations of society, family, and even our own internal standards. It serves an important function in helping us navigate the external world, but it is not the entirety of who we are. Beneath the persona lies a deeper, more authentic self, one that is often hidden, repressed, or even forgotten. When transformation begins to unfold, the cracks in the persona become more noticeable. You might find yourself questioning the roles you've played or feeling disconnected from the image you've projected for so long. The expectations of others, once a source of motivation, may begin to feel burdensome or irrelevant. The desire to please others, to fit neatly into predefined categories, may start to seem futile, and the more you resist, the stronger the pull toward authenticity becomes. This inner tension is uncomfortable, but it signals a profound spiritual shift. The psyche is moving toward a deeper integration, one that transcends the limited boundaries of the persona. At first, this disintegration can feel like a loss of identity. Who are you if you are no longer the person you thought you were? The roles that once gave your life structure and meaning now seem shallow, fragile, or even false. You may feel untethered, unsure of where you belong or how to relate to others. The external world, which once seemed so clear and defined, now feels murky and uncertain. Relationships, too, may be affected. Those who once knew you by the persona you presented may be confused or resistant to the changes they see in you. This can create feelings of alienation or loneliness as you begin to move away from the person they expect you to be. But this disintegration is not the end of the story. It is simply a necessary phase of shedding what no longer serves you. It is a process of letting go of the old self so that the new, more authentic self can emerge. This is not a process of becoming someone entirely new, but rather of rediscovering and embracing parts of yourself that have been hidden or suppressed for far too long. The roles you once played, the masks you wore, may have been important for a time, but they were never the full expression of who you truly are. The ego, in its desire for control, has clung to these roles, but now the spirit calls for something deeper, something truer. As the persona dissolves, you begin to reconnect with the core of your being, the aspects of yourself that are not defined by external labels or expectations. This is the beginning of individuation, a process of becoming the fullest version of yourself, unencumbered by the constraints of societal roles or the masks you've worn. The false identities that you once constructed begin to crumble, making space for the emergence of your true essence. This can be a time of deep uncertainty as you step away from the comfort of the persona and embrace the unknown. Without the familiar roles to guide you, you may feel a sense of disorientation or confusion. You might wonder if you are losing your way, but in reality you are finding a new path, one that is more aligned with your authentic self. As the persona dissolves, you may also begin to confront aspects of yourself that were previously hidden in the shadows, traits, desires, and emotions that you had long ignored or rejected. These parts of yourself, while uncomfortable at first, are integral to the process of becoming whole. Over time, this dissolution of the persona leads to greater freedom. You are no longer bound by the need to fit into predetermined roles or meet the expectations of others. Instead, you are free to live in alignment with your deeper truth. This freedom can be both exhilarating and terrifying. It means stepping away from the need for validation, from the constant search for approval, and learning to trust yourself and your own inner guidance. It is a reclaiming of your personal power, the power to be fully, unapologetically yourself, without the need for external validation or approval. Through this process, you begin to understand that the persona was never meant to be permanent. It was a tool for navigating the world, but it was never the essence of who you are. The true self, which was always there beneath the surface, is now free to emerge. It may not always be neat or predictable, but it is real. And in this newfound authenticity, you find a deeper sense of peace and connection with both yourself and the world around you. As the persona fades, the soul steps forward, inviting you to live more fully and more truthfully than you ever have before. As your spirit undergoes transformation, a paradox begins to unfold. The process is not always smooth or comfortable. In fact, it is often marked by inner conflict. This conflict does not arise from external challenges, but from the deep internal disarray that occurs when you are pulled in two opposing directions. You may feel as though your old self is being torn apart, and in many ways it is. This is not a sign of regression or failure, but rather the forging of something greater. Like a blade being tempered in fire, you are being shaped and strengthened through the tension between what you once were and what you are becoming. During times of transformation, the ego, the part of the self that holds your identity, your sense of control, fights to maintain its grip on your life. The ego wants to preserve the status quo, to keep things predictable and safe. It resists change, fearing the unknown, but this resistance is not simply a product of your conscious mind. It stems from a deeper part of the psyche that seeks security and stability. The problem, however, is that in clinging to the past, the ego keeps you tethered to old patterns, to outdated beliefs, to ways of being that no longer serve your growth. This internal struggle becomes more pronounced as you begin to feel the tension between your old self, with its familiar roles and masks, and the emerging self that is calling you towards something deeper and truer. This conflict can manifest in various forms. You might feel torn between two opposing desires, each representing a different version of who you think you should be. One part of you might crave the security and comfort of the life you have built, while another part longs for something more authentic, something unknown. You may experience moments of doubt, questioning whether you are on the right path or whether the changes you are undergoing are truly for the best. The old patterns, even though they no longer serve you, can still have a magnetic pull. There is a familiarity in staying with what you know, even if it is no longer aligned with your soul's evolution. The emotional turbulence that comes with inner conflict can be overwhelming. You may feel like you are at war with yourself, torn between opposing forces. Anger, confusion, sadness, and fear might flood your consciousness, and the chaos within can feel unbearable. It may seem like the pressure is too much to handle, and you might wonder if you are losing your way. But in truth, this is the forge. The very conflict you are experiencing is a crucible, one that is burning away the dross and revealing the essence of who you are. The ego, in its effort to control, may try to suppress or deny the emotional intensity that arises. It might urge you to push through, to avoid confronting the deeper feelings and fears that are surfacing. But this is where the transformation takes place. The only way to move through this conflict is to embrace it, to allow the emotions to flow without judgment, and to sit with the discomfort rather than resist it. By doing so, you begin to learn to integrate the various aspects of yourself that were previously fragmented. The ego's grip loosens as you allow space for the full range of your emotional experience. You stop seeing these feelings as obstacles or signs of failure, but as integral parts of your journey. As this inner turmoil continues, a subtle shift begins to occur. The conflict, once a source of confusion and frustration, starts to feel less like a battle and more like a dynamic process. You begin to understand that the tensions within you are not enemies to be conquered, but forces that need to be understood and integrated. These internal struggles are not about winning or losing. They are about growth, about the necessary friction that occurs when the soul is evolving. In this way, the conflict becomes a teacher, showing you where you need to grow, where you need to release outdated beliefs, and where you need to embrace new ways of thinking and being. Eventually, the turbulence of inner conflict begins to subside, not because the struggle has ended, but because you have learned to flow with it. You have come to accept that transformation is not linear. It is messy, unpredictable, and often uncomfortable. But in embracing the chaos, you learn to navigate it with more grace and confidence. The emotional and psychological turbulence no longer feels like an overwhelming force, but like the very heat that forges a stronger, more resilient self. The process is not about avoiding conflict, but about learning how to move through it. The more you confront and integrate these internal contradictions, the more you become whole. What once felt like a war within yourself transforms into an inner harmony. This process does not eliminate the tension or make everything easy, but it makes you more capable of facing the challenges with a sense of purpose and clarity. You become more attuned to the deeper rhythms of life, understanding that the struggle is part of the journey and that every moment of tension is an opportunity for growth. Through this inner conflict, you are not being broken, you are being remade. As your spirit moves through transformation, a quiet but persistent longing begins to surface. It is not the desire for external success or fleeting pleasures, but rather a deeper yearning for wholeness. This pull is unlike anything you have felt before. It is not driven by the need to achieve something outside of yourself, nor is it motivated by the desire to please others. It is a deeper call from within, urging you to become fully aligned with the truth of who you are. There is a sense that something essential is missing, something that has been overlooked or ignored for too long, and the soul's desire to reconnect with this lost part grows ever more insistent. This longing is the pull toward integration, a quest to bring all of your fragmented pieces back into a unified whole. This pull toward wholeness is not just a psychological or emotional process, it is a spiritual journey. It involves a movement from separation and fragmentation toward unity and harmony. It is as though you have been living in a world of partial truths, only now beginning to see the whole picture. All the different aspects of yourself, your intellect, your emotions, your instincts, your intuition, are seeking to come together, to work in concert rather than in opposition. This desire for wholeness is not just a fleeting wish or a passing fancy. It is a fundamental aspect of your being, the very essence of who you are. It is the desire to become whole, to no longer be fragmented, to no longer live in a state of disconnection from your true self. The call for integration is also a call for authenticity. You begin to feel that the life you have been living, while perhaps successful on the surface, is not the life that fully represents who you are. You may have spent years chasing external achievements, careers, relationships, possessions, and while these things may bring momentary satisfaction, they no longer hold the same meaning. The external world, with its focus on external validation and accomplishment, no longer feels like the source of fulfillment. What you seek now is something deeper, something more lasting, something that can only be found within. You yearn for an alignment between your inner world and your outer life, where every aspect of your being reflects the truth of who you are, and where you no longer feel compelled to hide or suppress parts of yourself. This longing for wholeness is often accompanied by a sense of disillusionment or even frustration. You may have experienced success in various areas of your life, but now, as your spirit undergoes transformation, the things that once brought you joy or a sense of accomplishment seem hollow. You might feel a disconnect between who you once thought you were and who you are now beginning to realize you are meant to be. The achievements that once defined you no longer satisfy the deeper hunger within. You are no longer content with living a life that is merely good enough or successful by society's standards. Instead, you feel a pull towards something more authentic, more in tune with your soul's purpose. This pull toward wholeness is also accompanied by the realization that you are incomplete. There are parts of yourself that have been neglected or hidden away for too long. These parts may have been pushed into the shadows of your unconscious, deemed unworthy or unacceptable by society or even by yourself. But now, as your spirit transforms, these parts of you begin to call out, demanding to be acknowledged and integrated. It is no longer enough to live with only a partial sense of who you are. You must reclaim the lost aspects of yourself, the parts that were denied or ignored for the sake of fitting in or fulfilling expectations. This process of reclamation is not always easy, as it often involves confronting uncomfortable truths about yourself. But it is necessary if you are to experience the fullness of who you truly are. The more you listen to this pull, the more you realize that the path toward wholeness is not a destination but a continuous journey. It is not something you can achieve through external accomplishments or accolades. Instead, it is a journey of self-discovery and self-acceptance, of becoming more attuned to your inner truth and learning to live in alignment with that truth. As you move through this process, you may find that the desires and goals that once defined you begin to shift. The things that once seemed important no longer hold the same significance. You are no longer driven by the need for approval or external validation. Instead, you are guided by an inner compass, one that points toward authenticity, inner peace, and alignment with your true self. This pull toward wholeness also opens the door to deeper connections with others. As you begin to integrate the fragmented parts of yourself, you find that you are able to relate to others in a more genuine and authentic way. You no longer feel the need to hide behind masks or pretend to be someone you are not. Instead, you are free to show up as your true self, to connect with others from a place of honesty and vulnerability. This, in turn, creates more meaningful and fulfilling relationships, as you no longer seek to fulfill others' expectations or project a false image. You are simply yourself, and in doing so, you invite others to do the same. The pull toward wholeness is a powerful force, one that propels you toward a life that is richer, more authentic, and more aligned with your soul's deepest desires. It is a journey that requires courage, as it often involves confronting fears and insecurities, but it is a journey that ultimately leads to greater freedom and fulfillment. By following this pull, you move closer to becoming the fullest version of yourself, one that is not defined by external achievements or societal expectations, but by an inner truth that can only be realized through self-acceptance and integration. Through this journey, you begin to experience life not as a series of disconnected events, but as a coherent, meaningful unfolding of your soul's purpose. As you continue to transform, the journey gradually becomes a process of self-discovery. The external world begins to take on new meaning, but this time the focus shifts away from the outside and turns inward. The ego, which once controlled much of your experience by creating false boundaries and defining your identity through external achievements, slowly begins to recede. You start to realize that the path to understanding who you truly are is not paved with external markers or societal expectations, but instead emerges from within. It is as though you are waking up from a long slumber, realizing that the external world is merely a reflection of the deeper currents of your inner world. This inner awakening creates a space for the deeper, often hidden parts of yourself to emerge. As you shed layers of the old self, which were constructed to protect or fit into social structures, you begin to uncover aspects of your psyche that had been neglected or forgotten. These parts of you may not fit the idealized image you once had of yourself, but they are no less important in the journey toward your authentic self. The truth, it becomes clear, is not something you go out to find. It is something that arises naturally when you allow yourself to move through the internal clutter that has accumulated over time. This awakening is often accompanied by moments of clarity, those times when something deep within you clicks into place, and you understand something fundamental about yourself or the world. These moments are not sudden epiphanies or grand revelations, but quiet realizations that slowly begin to shift your perspective. You might realize, for instance, that your previous fears were grounded in misconceptions or societal conditioning. The beliefs that once seemed so solid now appear fragile, almost laughable in their simplicity. In these moments, you come to understand that much of your past life was shaped by influences that had little to do with who you truly are or who you are becoming. As this inner transformation unfolds, you begin to experience life in a more expansive way. Your previous narrow focus, which was centered around personal success, material goals, or social approval, starts to give way to a deeper appreciation of the present moment. You begin to see the interconnectedness of all things, and your sense of individuality expands into a broader understanding of your place within the universe. You begin to recognize that your true self cannot be defined by isolated moments of achievement or social standing. Instead, it is defined by a continuous process of growth and evolution, where each moment is a stepping stone toward greater self-realization. There is a subtle shift that takes place in your relationships as well. As you become more aware of your true self, you begin to view others in a new light. No longer are you merely focused on their external behaviors, their roles, or how they reflect back your own needs and desires. Instead, you start to see the deeper essence of those around you, their fears, desires, struggles, and joys. This awareness brings a sense of compassion as you recognize that everyone is on their own unique journey of transformation, much like you. With this new understanding, you are no longer so quick to judge or criticize others. Instead, you become more patient and accepting, understanding that each person's path is their own, and that their struggles are often reflections of the very same internal battles you are facing. The more you embrace this inner awakening, the more your sense of purpose becomes clear. Your life begins to align with your core values rather than the values imposed by society or external forces. The choices you make, the relationships you cultivate, and the actions you take are no longer driven by the need for validation or approval. Instead, they arise from a deep well of inner knowing. You begin to trust your intuition more, understanding that the answers to life's challenges are not found outside of yourself, but within. Your soul, which has always known the way, becomes your most trusted guide. However, this inner awakening does not come without challenges. As you peel back the layers of your past self, you may encounter unresolved fears, suppressed emotions, and buried memories. These remnants of the old self, which were once pushed aside or ignored, now come to the surface, often in unexpected and uncomfortable ways. They may manifest as anxiety, sadness, or even anger, yet these emotions are not obstacles to your growth. They are part of the healing process. As you confront and integrate these feelings, you begin to release the past and create space for the new. This process of self-discovery can be messy and unpredictable, but it is through this very discomfort that you experience the greatest shifts in your being. What becomes evident as you continue down this path is that transformation is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process. The journey toward discovering your true self is not linear, it is cyclical, ever-evolving. There will be moments of clarity and peace, followed by moments of doubt and uncertainty, but through it all you begin to understand that these fluctuations are part of the larger rhythm of life. Each step, whether forward or backward, is an integral part of the process. As you deepen your self-awareness, you come to realize that there is no final destination. There is only the journey. The process itself becomes the destination as you learn to embrace each moment as it comes and to trust in the unfolding of your unique path. This deeper understanding of yourself leads to a profound sense of peace. No longer are you defined by the roles you play, the achievements you accumulate, or the external validation you receive. You come to understand that your true essence is timeless and unchanging, regardless of what is happening in the external world. This realization brings freedom, the freedom to live authentically without fear or the need for approval, and the freedom to fully embrace the mystery of who you are becoming. Through this process of self-discovery, you move closer to your true self, and in doing so, become more connected to the world around you. The transformation is not just internal, it is reflected in every aspect of your life, creating ripples that extend outward and touch everyone you encounter. In the end, the transformation of your spirit is not a singular event, but a profound, ongoing journey that unfolds with every step you take. It is a process of shedding old identities, embracing the unknown, and reconnecting with the deepest, most authentic parts of yourself. As you confront the inner conflicts, dissolve the masks, and integrate the fragmented aspects of your being, you move closer to the wholeness and freedom that your soul has always yearned for. The path may not always be easy or predictable, but every moment of discomfort, every struggle, and every breakthrough is part of the process that leads to your true self. Ultimately, this transformation is a journey of self-discovery and alignment with your deeper truth. It calls you to live authentically, trust your inner wisdom, and embrace the uncertainty that comes with becoming the fullest version of who you are meant to be. Through this inner awakening, you will not only discover your true essence, but also cultivate deeper connections with others and the world around you. In embracing this journey, you will find a profound sense of peace, freedom, and purpose that comes from living in alignment with your soul. Your spirit, in all its beauty and complexity, is transforming, and with it you are becoming the person you were always meant to be.